I was safe, I was protected. A ton of you all have been pondering where the Oscar and Emmy grant-winning genius Regina Ruler has vanished to. And folks, I can see you that she has had to deal with a lot of hardship, so what befell her? And why haven't we heard a lot about her recently? Well, a ton of why Regina Lord just went unnoticed has to do with a grievous romantic tale and the significantly more shocking loss of her child, Regina, your child. Ian has been out with you here. He is here on the honors circuit. And what's he like to go to grant shows with? Is he defensive of you? Is he fun at these honor shows? He is such a lot of fun. He is such a lot of tomfoolery. And he has been defensive of me, his life clearly. It's alls difficult to fail to remember somebody like Regina Lord, who's won numerous honors for her incredible work in media outlets, for example. In 2019, she won her most memorable foundation grant for Best Supporting Entertainer for her presentation as Sharon Stream's A Savagely Defensive Mother. And in the event that Beale Road could talk, she additionally caught the Brilliant Globe for this job. She likewise has 3 Emmy grants for her work on the show American Wrongdoing and the TV miniseries 7 Seconds. Thank you, this is astounding. I need a revile right now. Applause. This is great. Obviously, Regina has gotten a few different honors for her work as an entertainer. And let me not even start with how much achievement she's accomplished in the background during her pinnacle years. Surely doesn't appear as though somebody who might at any point battle in life right well. She was doing great until life recently began tossing her curves first. It was her bombed connections. Regina wedded Ian Alexander in 1997, preceding separating from him in 2007. And we should simply say that the marriage didn't precisely end well. Regina even composed a paper about the separation in the book. He never got back home, meeting stories and expositions from girls on existence without their dads, where she discussed being the result of separation and going through one of her own likewise. While discussing how troublesome that marriage was, she said the marriage part was presumably the hardest piece, all things considered. And I think any wedded couple that has stayed hitched caps off to them, since they had the option to move past those times while you're developing at various velocities and every which way and figuring out how to bring it back and get back on the very way that is troublesome. Even after such an unpleasant closure, 4 years after her separation, Regina Lord found love again with Cosby Show entertainer Malcolm Jamal Warner. They initially met during the 1980s, when they were both sitcom stars. Lastly began dating in 2011, which was only nostalgic for individuals who grew up watching them. And taking everything into account, the timing was only ideally suited for them to date in 2012. She even discussed the relationship, saying, "I accept the universe has an arrangement, and we most likely could not have possibly been prepared. Quite a while back, we both needed to do anything that we needed to do to be prepared for one another." Now, tragically, that relationship finished after only 2 years in spring of 2013. And something totally broke Regina at the time. Sources detailed that Regina was completely sucker punched and shattered after Malcolm canceled things, since he wasn't feeling it any longer. He truly told Regina and her child, who were residing with him, to move out. And you'll have a hard time believing that Malcolm truly parted ways with Regina on Valentine's Day. She spilled on that when she was asked what her #1 Valentine's gift had been. And Regina let us know week after week, "That is extreme, since I don't have one. Somebody parted ways with me on Valentine's. I'm serious. Then he truly sent me roses that said, 'I actually love you.' And I tossed the blossoms in the rubbish. And he was disturbed that I tossed them in the junk. I need to concede that nothing messes with some old animosity than getting unloaded on Valentine's Day, and afterward attempting to compensate for it with a very miserable bouquet kid. By like they, in a real sense, knew one another eternity. And afterward, all of a sudden, Malcolm unloaded her clearly. By then, Regina was confounded and harmed on the grounds that she, in a real sense, didn't have any idea what had occurred after her parted. Regina likewise communicated that she held on to no craving to begin dating again in 2015, that she was excessively occupied with work to focus on it. Are you dating? You realize, I really want to improve at it. I realized I do. I've been so occupied with work. And my sweethearts resemble, you think a man's about to go thump on the entryway. And like I'm here, and I assume I wish you would yet I need to focus on that a greater amount of concerning assuming Regina ultimately found love again, she told the New York Post in 2019 individuals. Say you're not dating anybody, I mean I'm dating yet. It's entirely agreeable where I'm correct now. Upsetting that implies being in an awkward spot. And I'm not prepared for that well, other than that rough love life. Something different that just destroyed Regina was the demise of her child Ian, who took his own life in January of 2022 in a proclamation. The family gave they composed our family is crushed at the most profound level by the deficiency of Ian. He is a splendid light, who thought often so profoundly about the satisfaction of others. Our family requests deferential thought during this private time. Obviously, Regina was profoundly wounded by the regulations, thinking about how close they were, and Ian was in a real sense the main individual in her life. My child Ian, the way that I get to impart this night to you, the best date in the house, gracious man, you make being a mother my most noteworthy achievement. I love you, cheers. They were near the point that the two of them had matching tattoos on their lower arms, perusing unrestricted love and Aramaic, which they learned while concentrating on Kabbalah together. We were taking Kabbalah classes, and he said very much we should pick 3 each, and not let each know other which ones they are, and whichever one that is matching that is the one we will get a tattoo. And we both picked genuine. It's pleasant, gracious. That is overwhelmingly significant to be your folks as far as it matters for him. Ian likewise talked so exceptionally of his mother, and at one point told E! News, she's a super mother truly if she doesn't exactly tell you terrible work days, or anything return and ruin the time that we have, so it's truly marvelous to have a mother that can likewise very much want to appreciate God. Help us, sorry goodness my golly, I can appreciate investing energy with what not so to Regina King was her greatest wellspring of pride. In spite of being an exceptionally fruitful entertainer in media outlets, as a matter of fact, in the wake of isolating from Ian's dad in 2007 following 9 years of marriage, she conceded being a solitary parent wasn't generally simple, yet that nothing was more grounded than her affection for her child, so the misfortune was a tremendous one for Regina, and for her, as well as her dear companions like Vivica Fox, who saw Regina breaking to pieces. Whatever else is that I'm happy that I got to hug her, happy I got to thoroughly search in her eyes. This has been totally perhaps of the longest end of the week I've at any point had in my life. It's like I can't quit crying. Yet she said to let everyone know that she's gotten your messages, the generous overflow of affection for her family and her child. She feels a debt of gratitude. It's not precisely clear what made Anne end his life, yet he had expressed days before his passing that virtual entertainment, particularly Instagram, was exceptionally undesirable for his prosperity. And one of his last tweets he composed, I don't think Instagram is smart for me. He likewise utilized a famous picture from SpongeBob SquarePants, where the animation character is encircled by minuscule clones shrouded in wild blazes, to delineate precisely the way in which he was feeling to his devotees, adding that episode of SpongeBob where they go inside his cerebrum. And it's a lot of small SpongeBobs, losing more definitely that one truly hits home since the passing of her child Regina hasn't exactly done a lot of, despite the fact that she's shown up to a great extent. And I absolutely get it, since it's sort of difficult to concentrate when your main inspiration is no longer with you, particularly given the way that Regina didn't have the foggiest idea why her main child, whom she cherished with everything that is in her, ended his life, while she actually feels profoundly grief-stricken and keeps on recalling her child. In January of 2023, Regina recorded a lamplighting service she took part in for Ian's recognition, calling him her directing light, and composed January 19th is Ian's worth day, as we actually process his actual non-appearance. We commend his presence. We are all in better places in the world. So is Ian. His soul is the string that interfaces us, obviously orange, is your number one variety. It's the fire and the quiet I see you in all that I inhale naturally. She's still in such a lot of agony. And ideally with time she'll effortlessness us with her momentous ability and abilities. By and by, don't you need to see her back in real life? Also go ahead and drop your remarks about Regina's entirely observable non-attendance from media outlets in the remark segment underneath. Thank you, unfamiliar.